Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. Last week saw Nottingham Forest sign two England under-21 European champions for 67 million quid. Sunday saw Forest kick off the Premier League season with a 3-1 win over Brentford. Today saw Arnaud Kalimuendo join from Rennes, and it's only 1 p.m. as we record this, so who knows what tomorrow and even the rest of the day will bring. But joining me to discuss what we do know, first of all, is Mark Sutherns. Mark, afternoon, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, things are looking up. Apart from my FPL team, which was very mediocre to say the least. But yeah, delighted with the win and delighted with the signings coming through the door at last.
Yeah, that Forest clean sheet wipeout was pretty brutal. But there you go. It did. Greg Mitchell, how are you?
Good. That usual Monday feeling after a Forest game continues like it was last season. Just another win.
Not normally on the opening day though. First opening day win since 2017. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Reds legend Garry Birtles, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Thank you.
Good to have you with us. We normally focus on the match, but we'll do things a little bit differently. We'll talk about Kalimuendo signing. That was announced a couple of hours ago, a 5-year deal from Rennes. Garry, before we started recording, you were saying how excited you were, having seen bits of him. What would you say about the signing?
Well, having watched the video you sent me through, I couldn't believe how impressed I was. He seems to have every goal in the book. He's got quick feet. He's got great awareness. He's got pace. He takes people on in the right areas. He commits people. He's not scared to take people on. And he scores headed goals, great headed goals. He goes across the keeper, which is always you're told as a striker to go. But he can almost do anything when he gets the opportunity. He can go, con the keeper and go near post instead of going across. That's what a good striker is all about. He's got every trick in the book, and he's not afraid to miss. And he's creative as well for other people. I just think he looks, from what I've seen, that's all I've seen of him. People might say, well, it's the French league, it's not the strongest, but you've still got to do what he did watching that video. And he did it brilliantly.
I suppose as well, Greg, so he's got all the raw tools. We don't even have to rush him into the team because we've got a striker who scored 2 goals yesterday. So that's not bad, is it?
What a striker as well. No, we don't. It'll be nice to get him in the team quick, though, just to see how good he is. And 17 goals last season. So certainly knows how to play. And the French league, it can be tough. Some of the teams have got to play there. So yeah, exciting. We're strengthening when other teams that are supposed to be our rivals are weakening and losing players. So it's all looking positive so far.
I was talking looking positive. Let's throw it to Mark then. Who's going to get this sort of question also? I can see he was worried.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just look forward to Sunday now, and I look forward to Nuno turning around on his bench and seeing McAtee, Hutchinson and Kalimuendo sitting there. And whatever the game state is now, we've got players who can come on and change things. And I think that is what we lacked in the last third of last season. And that ultimately is what cost us finishing in the Champions League places, because Nuno didn't have those options. And we had plenty of matches, Leicester at home being one that sticks in the mind, Everton at home, where we just couldn't break anyone down. And he turned around and we didn't have answers on the bench. He couldn't really do much with what he had. Now he has. And I think, Nuno's interview was about, well, I haven't got these players in time for pre-season. I haven't had time to bed them in. That is valid, and I agree. And we can't be expecting him to build them into his system overnight. It's going to take time for them to adjust and settle in. But they are high-quality players, and Hutchinson and McAtee have got Premier League experience. So I'm hoping that Nuno can integrate them into the squad quickly, into the 11 if that's what required quickly, so they can have an impact. But it's exciting times. I don't know the last time I remember looking at the bench and thinking, look at those options there. That's going to scare the opponents when we bring 1 or 2 of those on in the last 20 minutes if we need them. And Kalimuendo, looks potentially explosive, looks very different to what we've got at the moment, and could be the perfect complement to Chris Wood when we need it.
A quick side question then that I was going to ask, Garry, I'll throw it to you. You must name the same, actually, if everyone's fit, an unchanged 11 v Palace, wouldn't you, based on where we played against Brentford?
You would have thought so. Why change a winning team? Brentford have lost some key players, obviously, so that disrupted them. They've lost the manager, so it's always going to be difficult for a new manager coming in to start the season right. First off, we were just, I was listening to Don Goodman, I know well, and he, was talking sensational, Forest. And to be fair, it was. I think everybody was a little bit apprehensive, maybe supporter-wise, because of pre-season, only 1 goal, and some of the performances, weren't overly impressive. But on the day, it doesn't matter. Pre-season, I've said before, is to get you fit, pure and simple. And it's great for strikers if they can score goals in pre-season, because that's what they want. But fitness levels, you saw yesterday, were absolutely incredible. And I thought Gibbs-White and Anderson were just different class together. So the only problem I think Forest are going to have is we've got too many, very, very good players. You've got to keep happy in a squad. But with Europe coming, that's not a bad thing. And the quality of the players that have come in, as we've seen so far, are just, what about the header yesterday? We talked about Chris Wood's 2 goals. The header was a sensational header. Believe me, that's hard to do. Chris Wood's first goal, people, think, oh, well, it dropped for him nicely. But he was leaning backwards. You've seen a lot of strikers hack at it, and try and put power. That would have gone over the bar if he'd have done that. He kept his calm, he kept his cool, and he finished it beautifully, really did. And the second goal, it was just, I sat there with a smile on my face for the whole 90 minutes. It was just, I got a bit worried at the end because, we could have put it to bed. If you got that 4th goal, that's being greedy, I suppose. But, we could have gone joint top with Man City, but it doesn't matter. We're 4th in the league. And people say, well, it's only the first game, but winning that first game is so vitally important, I think, for any team.
I'll ask you a few specifics on those goals, Garry, shortly. I'll just put this comment on screen for you, Greg. A lot of people probably felt so. I was nervous ahead of the match, especially after Nuno's comments earlier, which didn't fill me with confidence. I'm assuming you weren't going to say you were nervous, so I'll throw that question to you, Greg, but also say that was the best first half performance since, and let you fill in the blank if you can think of a better first half performance.
Every season we strengthen now in this Premier League. My generation have never seen a team as strong as this. I think it's a stronger team already than last season. So the way they played, to say they've not really gelled yet and not had an amazing pre-season, it was the best performance I've seen especially that first 20 minutes. It was incredible. And of course, it's not going to be like that every game. I'm not that delusional, but it's a fantastic start. We don't know how Brentford are really. I imagine they're going to be struggling a bit, but you can only play against the team that's put in front of you. And I just thought we absolutely played brilliantly. And the second half, we didn't have to keep going the way we did in the first, which it was a shame for the viewer, but it was sensible. I just loved it. I'm excited about the existing players, the players that have come on since last season, and the way that they're going to have to go up a level yet again to keep the spot, just like Sangari's clearly doing so. So yeah. Just need to get some fullbacks, and we're well away. I have to this time of year. I have to try and temper my expectations, but
why?
After yesterday, it's hard not to.
No, don't temper them. You're the ray of sunshine. You can't have you tempering expectations, unfortunately. I'm afraid. I'll just finish up with strikers then, because it seems a good place to start around Kalimuendo. Just on Wood's goals, Garry. The second one I wanted to ask you about, especially, I noticed it, loads of people noticed it. When Anderson doesn't even get the ball and Wood's making his run already, which shows, I guess it's experience, isn't it? But I suppose it's elite finishing, and it shows Chris Wood's not going anywhere without a fight, is he, if he thinks he's not going to be the number 1 striker?
Well, first thing I said, they were talking about what a fabulous ball. But like you just said, the first thing I noticed was Chris Wood expected that ball to come his way. As a striker, you make your mind up very quickly, and he could see what was going on, and he turned, and he's got half a turn on the defender, and it was a beautifully weighted ball. It couldn't have been more perfect. But I tell you what, he's still had a lot to do. Brian Clough always said to me, if you're 1-on-1 with the keeper, make your mind up quickly. If you miss, fine, but make your mind up quickly, because if you did that, you give the opposition time to do, and he didn't. He was going to go around the keeper. And he just finished it again. The confidence he finished it with was, exemplary. And the 2 goals were totally different, but very, very top quality in their own way.
No minutes for Taiwo, Mark. I guess with Kalimuendo coming in, it probably says we've got, 12 days left? I think Taiwo's probably days, sadly, might be numbered.
Yeah, maybe. It's nice to have 4 strikers, though. It's nice to be in that position. And there's no reason why a top-flight Premier League side in a European competition can't sustain having 4 strikers. I think that's particularly if Nuno as he's mentioned, he's going to flirt with playing 2 up top in matches on some occasions too. So I don't automatically think that Taiwo is going to be out, given the number of matches that we've got. What do you think, a loan move, or do you think that something permanent's going to be struck up? But maybe a loan. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think it'd be a shame, because I think he's shown a bit in pre-season that somehow seems to have got his yard of pace back, and that extra bit of vitality is in his game again, which was missing when he came back from injury, which was so worrying, and perhaps led to the injury in the first place, because I think he was struggling for fitness even when brought back into the team at the tail end of last season. And so he was one of the players, I think, who has had a positive pre-season, who has shown glimpses. So I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what we do there.
Do you think his career is going nowhere, though, Gary, in the sense that, you must know from experience, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, it'd be a season and a half. That's not a recipe for, your career really going where you want it to be, is it?
I think the problem is we saw what he's capable of when he was in the team before Chris cemented his place in the team. He caused havoc to, a lot of quality defenders in the Premier League. If he can get it consistency, which he struggled with because of injury. I think people said when he came to the club, he struggled with injury a little bit. But he's still not old, is he? And he's still got, when he is fully fit, he's got that pace, he's got that strength. He can't finish. I think he panics sometimes, especially when he got the opportunity last season, trying too hard to, prove a point. Excuse me. But I don't know. He's still got that little bit of something that creates problems for defenders.
I think, Matt, it's interesting. Like, we've never been in a position since we've been in the Premier League where we've had 2 or 3 options up top, and we can look for the player who's got the hot hand, or in form, or in confidence, whatever you want to call it. And they're also going to drive each other. That element of competition is going to drive each other. So, maybe that's a factor already. Maybe we saw that with performances on Sunday. The fact that McAtee and Hutchinson were introduced, Callum on his way in, and 3 of our best performers were perhaps players that, not under question, but we'll feel like, okay, well, I've got competition for places now. So I think having Awoniyi around the club will help drive the others as well. So I don't know if it's a given that he will be shipped out. Let's see.
Yeah, definitely. We shall see. Let's we'll move on to a few other players. I mean, there were some real stars of the show yesterday. Just for all that, worth the Trent navigation. Sunday's game, which is very interesting, will be screened at the Nav, 2 p.m. kickoff. If you don't have a ticket, get down there from 10 a.m. for your breakfast. You can watch the games on the outdoor screens and inside the pub. Get a Sunday roast down there. Don't just eat a bag of crisps at the ground like I did yesterday, or you get from the pizza kitchen as well. And you don't need to book. Just head on down and enjoy your day there. Let's talk about the midfielders. Greg, I mean, stars of the show. I don't know if you want to pick out any of them, but all 3 absolutely dominated that game, didn't they?
Yeah, Gibbs White. And when you listen to the match of the day last night, even, who was it? He's usually quite negative about Forest, saying basically we're a joy to watch, and we were. They've got that chemistry, haven't they? Anderson and Gibbs White especially, that's just fantastic. And then Nico pushing up like he's a midfielder half the time as well, just brilliant. And the vision that Ando has already at his age, like, he's got to be looking at the World Cup if he continues the way he's going this season. Keep injury free and keep playing like that, they're going to not be able to not pick him. So yeah, it's just amazing.
Well, there was that bit which we didn't mention on the post-match show where him and Morgan were playing back-heeled 1-2s with each other, and Anderson's shot was blocked. That's 10 minutes into the season. I mean, it just shows the nonsense of pre-season, because they weren't doing that in pre-season, because why would they? But yeah, to turn that on was fantastic. Just on Anderson, a couple of bits. People will have seen, if you watched the post-match show yesterday, there's his touch map on the right. If you're watching on YouTube, it's just all over the place, which is fantastic. Shows every blade of grass he covered. And then Mark, you sent me this pass map. Talk us through it, because obviously the big dot in the middle is Elliot Anderson, which proves the point, but just talk us through what it says.
Yeah, I just think it highlights that he's at the hub of everything there, isn't he? And I think, like, I can't remember how the midfield 3 have performed better than that in any match that I've seen since we've been promoted. I think Sangaré providing the protection, Anderson providing the control, and Gibbs White providing the flourishes and the touches and passes that hurt the opposition. Those three complemented each other so perfectly in that game. And Anderson was at the hub of it. I think we can expect to see this now. Like last season, he was fantastic. This season, I think and I hope that he will go on to control football matches on a more regular basis, even more than he did last season. And I think we saw that on Sunday in that they couldn't live with him. They couldn't wrestle superiority off us because Anderson was just in control of it. And yes, Gibbs White got man of the match in many people's eyes, and he did perform incredibly well. And he had some lovely touches and flourishes, and yes, and the cross for Ndoye was fantastic. But for me, Anderson was it was a complete midfield performance, the level of control he had on that match. And he's 2-footed. He's got this wonderful balance about him. When he goes into a duel with another player, he seems to be able to have the intelligence to really read, to put his body in a position where he's always the one that comes out with the ball. And as a supporter, every time Anderson is involved in a play, I just feel secure in the knowledge that he's going to come out on top with the ball and play the right pass. I just have 100% confidence in him. And what's he, 20, 21? That's incredible. I just think he's now at the point where he's going to start stepping up to a level, like I say, where he's going to control games and he's going to give Tuchel no choice whatsoever but to put him in that squad.
Thank you very much to Beavis Sydney, absolutely sensational name, for signing up for membership. Appreciate that. I saw Jack signed up earlier as well, and Greg Forrest. Appreciate that very much. I think, is control the main word there, Gary? Because I think I read a stat, and I haven't checked the veracity of it, but that's the first game we've won with more possession of the ball in 3 years. Is that the one thing we've been really lacking since we got promoted?
Well, I think people last season, rightly so, talked about our counter-attacking. Even Ipswich were having more possession than us and the teams at the bottom. But Nuno's had to change it because Elanga's gone a little bit. And, for us to have more possession, I think the pressing again was so impressive from everybody because Chris Wood's very good at doing that. He's not a lazy striker, but he expects backup from behind, and he got that backup all the way through. And I think we pushed up a tad, and it made it more difficult for Brentford to come out. I think the only one downside a little bit was Aina got caught out of position 2 or 3 times. He went forward, lost possession when he probably shouldn't have done, should have played it earlier. And then they countered quite well down that side. But that's just nitpicking. I mean, everything was just superb apart from that.
I think so. 666 people, unfortunately, watching. Do us a favour and hit like or add one extra person. I'll probably mute Gary between talking because he's suffering today a bit.
I've got my water here.
You've got your water. Get on the water. Greg's probably on something else. No, that's too early.
I'm on my lunch break.
It's salted, isn't it? Well, Greg.
I could have gone for a walk, or got some fresh air, but no, come and talk to you.
I know. I almost didn't finish the joke because I felt too bad about it.
I want to have a rant about the referee anyway.
Why, really? Go on, I thought the ref was decent. Go on then. Go on. Okay.
Murillo, 4.5 minutes into injury time, steps up to score one of the greatest goals ever at the City ground, and the referee blows the whistle just before the 5 minutes of injury time are up. I thought, what are you doing?
He's in my team as well, Greg. I was like, oh, come on.
The ref had a good game, but he just had to make it about him at the end. I was gutted.
I think that's a good point as well. Just on that right side of the pitch, like Ndoye and Ain is probably the one thing that's a bit of a work in progress. But that's a good thing, isn't it, Mark? I mean, Dan Ndoye scored a goal on his debut, and he's probably, shown he's got a lot more to come.
Yeah, I think that relationship between Ndoye and Aina, the wide men and the fullbacks, they were integral to our success last season. Their relationship, the way they worked in tandem, it's going to take time for Ndoye to get that, but he has got that in his locker. He can come back and track back. He puts in the defensive yard. So he's not one of those wingers that we can't expect that from him. Yes, he got caught out by Rico Henry, where perhaps he was not tight enough, and Rico Henry outpaced him, and that led to that opportunity that Nico blocked, wasn't it, from Thiago? But I think, like I say, he will grow as a player, both going forward and tracking back as well. And him and Aina will develop a relationship because they're fantastic footballers. And at the end of the day, that will work eventually. Sangare, you saw from the graphic that I brought up, was covering that area. And so we were probably aware that was going to be an area where we could get caught. But And it happened a couple of times, but that's going to happen. Like, I was sitting watching a game thinking, I've never seen us being so dominant, and thinking, well, Brentford are going to have their 10, 15 minutes. And they kind of did, but didn't. Like, there was a few, they came out in the second half, and obviously Andrews had got amongst them at half time, and they were much more vibrant, much more pinging the ball around, a bit more urgency, but we never looked uncomfortable, I don't think. So despite, the relationship on that side being a thing that's got to grow, I don't think it was exposed at all too much.
700 people watching. Do us a favour and hit like if you haven't already. I suppose, Gary, this is the point where I ask the, were Brentford terrible question. I mean, they didn't have Damsgaard, who I think is probably their best current player. Bremo's gone. Visser's on strike. Keith Andrews' his first game. Are we in danger of getting a bit carried away or not?
No, I don't think so, because Brentford is still very dangerous. You saw that. They've got pace in the side. It has been a massive upheaval for them because they've lost the manager. They've lost Wembo. Look at how well he did for Manchester United yesterday. I was watching that game later on, and Manchester United look a different side with Cunha and him in the team. They're probably unlucky to lose to Arsenal. Should have probably got something out of it. So when you lose key players and quality players like that, you have to replace them like for like, and maybe that's not quite happened. It's been a transitional pre-season for them. So the next game, the first home game, will be the acid test. It was great for us because, Brentford, Newcastle and Fulham are the teams, we seem to struggle against. And Everton as well now, of course. But it'll be interesting to see how Everton do against Leeds tonight. Sunderland hammered West Ham. Burnley got hammered by Tottenham. You're looking at the teams coming up. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because Sunderland have, they spent a lot of money. They bought a lot of players in. They're trying to get it right from the start, and, that's the only way to go about it. But as a Forest fan, you've got to be delighted with what you saw. And, again, it's the recruitment that you've got to applaud, because that is paramount at any football club at any level. You have to get recruitment right. And, who's heard of some of the players? Well, the Premier League players were bought in, but the Botafogo, 2 from there, got the, 1 from Rennes, and probably people hadn't heard of him a great deal. But I'll tell you what, he did one, settled in yesterday, scored his goal, and it's going to be very exciting to see, what else comes our way player-wise, because yeah, it's a good start to the season. I remember us talking last season. On paper, we had a good start. The games we should have won all 3, people were saying, but we got off to a decent start. The Crystal Palace game is going to be very interesting, because I was reading that thing about the Crystal Palace fan calling us snitchers. You've been snitching about that. Hold on a minute. Rules are rules, and if you break the rules, you get punished. It's not our fault. What are you going to do? They would have done exactly the same if it had been the other way around. So I feel sorry for their fans, because you always do feel sorry for the fans. But it's nothing to do with us. We had our rights to do that, as along with the Gibbs White move to Tottenham. If people are doing things wrong, you have to stand up for yourself and say so. So I don't see where that's coming from. But then we've got West Ham, of course, who, as I say, got battered. And there are a lot of people's fancy to go down. I saw, a lot of people saying, well, West Ham, they've not bought a lot in. They've lost, players. So that'll be interesting as well to see how West Ham, bounce back from that shocking start.
Emily predicts them to go down, didn't she, actually, which was interesting. I suppose, Greg, it shows the value and importance of that first win and winning the first game. Last season, we drew with Bournemouth, drew with Wolves, beat Southampton, those first 3. Now we're looking at, Palace, which is going to be interesting, West Ham at home, Arsenal away, and then Sunderland and Burnley at home. I don't know. I'm encouraging you to get excited here, because if we go to Palace and you get a point, and then West Ham, we could be on to something, couldn't we?
Yeah, I want more than a point at Palace, definitely.
They're doing well.
Yeah, I know, but they're ready to crumble, aren't they? They're going to start infighting, and you see the players getting a bit upset. They're going to have an interesting week. They've got to get that game, Conference League game, out of the way as well, haven't they, and concentrate on us. Yeah, they've got a display planned, and that'll be interesting to see what they've thought up to put on that. But Yeah, I'd like to beat Palace. I'd really like to beat them, and I think we can beat West Ham. Arsenal's the only one, isn't it, now, of all the big away days. I know I count Man City from years ago in the Cup that we haven't gotten a result at yet. So I'd love to get something at Arsenal. I would take a draw there, absolutely, of course I would. And watching their game yesterday, I didn't think they looked as good as last season. Maybe Man U just looked a bit better. I don't know, but there's points everywhere in this league as we proved last year. So we've just got to keep getting them at every single game we can. And I think the next 2 or 3 games, I think we'll already know kind of where we are after this first probably 4 or 5 games.
I don't think we will until after 10, because I'll tell you why, Mark. Palace, it depends what happens with Eze and Gahey. West Ham, I think, look absolutely awful. And if they keep looking awful, we'll beat them. And then Burnley and Sunderland are probably teams that are gonna struggle. So I would put a slightly longer time frame on where we are, but around adding new signings and integrating them as well. Because, I don't know, do you think these fixtures are probably so favourable that we have to take a bit of time before we judge things? Certainly not just one game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's probably the weakest Brentford will be all season for a start, right? Because they got Rutara in now and Damsgaard will be fit. So, we got Brentford at the right time. And even with those players, I think Brentford would be bottom 6. So we shouldn't get too carried away. And yes, West Ham look in bad shape as well. They're not a happy camp at all based on the performance we saw at Sunderland and what I heard after the game as well. There's a few issues at the club in terms of that performance and the feedback from it. But I think, Sunderland, Burnley, I think they will be tested. I mean, the thing is though, you've got to put these. If you're playing an opponent at a good time, you've got to put a performance and put it away. You've got to get the points, and we didn't always do that last season. So I think if we can go and take points in these games, perhaps as expected, it's still a positive sign. It's still a sign that we're a team that are ruthless and will mercilessly cash in on a weakened opponent, which we didn't always do last season. We did waste those opportunities. So it's still something we can take a positive from. We can't, I think you're right. After 7 or 8 games, we can't really gauge where we're going to be in the top 8 or whatever. If that's where we are at that point, it will need longer. But after 7 or 8 games, you've got to think the signings are bedded in as well. So we might go into tougher fixtures, but we'll also go into a period where Nuno's having more of an influence and knows what his best 11 is.
And Europe kicks in by then as well. Gary, you're back. Can we hear you? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Sorry, somebody trying to phone me.
That's all right. We've done this long enough to know that was the case. I realised before I asked Greg one question saying we're going to be great, aren't we? And then I asked Mark saying the very next question saying don't get too far ahead of ourselves. That probably sums me up as a host more than anything. What was I going to ask next? Oh, just talk to us more, Gary, about Dan and Doy's header. You touched on it there, but we shouldn't really let it pass without more of a word on the execution of the header and Morgan's setup.
Well, Morgan knew exactly what he was doing. He's got that ability. I think you saw him having half a glance as he was turning and spinning. And I played with Robbo and Martin O'Neill in wide areas, and you knew the quality was going to come in. And Ndoye knew, he'd got to get across. It was very close to being offside, but he just held his run beautifully, and it was slightly behind him. And you've got to try and then adjust your body and direct it, and he did it beautifully. There's no panic there. It was just a quality finish. It really was a quality delivery. I think, again, going back about deliveries, I think our set pieces weren't particularly good. The number of times balls went beyond everybody and out at the far post. So, if you get that right, but it's the first game of the season. You can't really nitpick. You do. I do as an ex-player because that's what you have to do. But there was nothing else there. I think the whole 11 were superb, and they're only going to improve. I think as a squad, as a team, as individuals, and it's a happy place to be by the look of it. I think that's why people are signing as well. They saw what happened last season under Nuno. When we were winning games and how the reaction was after the winning of those games. We look really, great camaraderie from everybody. And again, Don Goodman, I go back, he mentioned the atmosphere yesterday. I wasn't at the game, but we know what the atmosphere is like at the City Ground. It's absolutely exceptional, second to none. And what the fans saw yesterday and how they reacted to that, I'm sure they're absolutely over the moon with that.
Yeah, as wonderful as Anderson was, he was my man of the match. I don't think he keeps set pieces long term. I wouldn't have imagined, because I don't think they were quite as good as Ilanga's personally, but they were decent. They were certainly better than Morgan's corners were. 800 people watching, which is great. Do hit like if you haven't already. Refereeing correspondent Greg Mitchell, there were 2 handballs in the game. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it back, but one penalty each, or what should it have been?
Yeah, the Sangare one was tough. He clearly didn't mean to, but if it was against you, you'd be like, yeah, that is. At the time, I thought it just rolled down his arm, but when you see the replay, yeah, it probably was. I was just gutted for Sells more than anything, because he deserved a clean sheet, especially when one goes down the middle like that. It must be so frustrating as a goalkeeper.
And he wasn't at pace, Greg, was it? If he didn't,
No.
a little bit, he just got his foot on it.
Yeah.
Did you see his reaction?
I think the first one was a penalty where the defender's got his arm up.
Mm.
And then Morgan was caught as well. You saw there was contact on his foot in the box. Why wasn't that given?
I think if he gives that handball, it's not reversed as a clear and obvious error, is it? Because he didn't initially give it, I think it was hard to turn it over, which is the mockery of VAR, to be honest. But I wasn't massively annoyed, maybe because we won anyway. I wasn't too concerned, but I didn't see Sel's reaction.
He punched his fist towards our bench, so I think maybe the goalkeeper coach or someone had said Thiago is going to go this way, and he rolled it down the middle, because he looked quite annoyed that it had gone where it was not supposed to go, I thought. Because if he stood there, then he would have stopped it like you do in the garden when you're kicking the ball as a kid. It was such a P-roller down the middle.
And he got injured as well, didn't he?
Our goalkeeping coach, yeah, he whacked his head, didn't he? Yeah.
Dugout, yeah.
6 stitches.
Yeah. Yeah, rough day all round. Right, let's take a word for Global Telemetrics, and we shall see you in just under 30 seconds.
Forest Focus viewers, you may have seen what we've actually done over the past year in regards to vehicle theft. You might have those feelings of that it will never happen to me, or it won't happen to my car. Did you know that the most stolen car last year was a Ford Fiesta, and Global Telemetrics has noticed a big uptake of thefts in the Nottinghamshire area? Don't be another "it won't happen to me." Drop us an email on how we can protect your vehicle.
Thanks to Global Telemetrics, Nottinghamshire was apparently joint top location in the country for vehicles recovered by Global Telemetrics in the last month. So do consider vehicle security, and the link is in the description. One other point we didn't really reflect on too much, Mark, the timing of the subs I found interesting. I thought Nuno left them quite late. I'd have been looking at it. I wrote down in my notes, Hudson-Odoi, Sangare, Wood, and Nico have got booked. I wonder whether, with more options on the bench, would he have made those subs earlier, or is it just in Nuno's nature that he leaves players on for that long?
No, possibly. And Anderson didn't go off either, did he? When he normally would do when he's run himself into the ground. And I think that was important. I was worried it was going to be Anderson for Yates for Anderson, and we lose a degree of control. There's no question that when we make subs last season, the quality of what we can bring on compared to what we take off, there's a gap, right? And we saw it, and when those players started, we saw it. So, and I think he made subs at times last season where we perhaps, in hindsight, would have gone, yeah, when we made that change, we lost a bit of control, and that led to this, it led to that. I think he was cautious, yeah, and I think generally he shouldn't be in that situation going forward, because he should have more options. Now, the players we brought in are very attacking. We haven't yet brought in another number 6, and I think, or a player who can play there. And I think that's what we're still lacking. Whether it is Douglas Luiz, I don't know, but we still lack that. I think although Yates can come on and win us free kicks, he's not someone who we can sit and go, right, just sit in front of the back four, be disciplined, screen the back four. Yates is much more about energy, tenacity, and tackling. We need someone who can come on and be disciplined and do that and help us shut the game down. And we haven't got that player yet. I think that's the only thing we're kind of missing. He's definitely now got an armory of players who can come on and change the game in an attacking sense, which we didn't have. But we now need that player who isn't a centre-back. Obviously, we can bring on a Morato or a Cunha to play free at the back. But I think we need that defensively minded midfielder who can help us shut the game down. you could argue Yates can do it, but I would argue we need someone a bit more experienced in doing that role in the 6, and that's what hopefully will be the next move.
Yeah, four centre backs on the bench yesterday, and I thought Yates came on and did a good job in what Yates's role probably is energy, getting up and down the pitch, winning a few free kicks, being a leader, that kind of thing. He's like, I think I agree with what Mark says. He's not a natural number 6, and he kind of did the role as well as he could last season. Garry, great to have you with us for a live episode. I hope you're feeling well today. Michelle, you asked a very detailed question that I really don't know the answer to about is switching from Puma balls to from Nike to Puma a reason for our corners. I don't think so. Do you know, Mark?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I managed to get my hands on that ball before the season started, and also the Puma ball was the ball that Arteta went to complained about in the Carabao Cup last season when they lost to Newcastle, and he complained about the ball, and he said the Puma ball is considerably different to the Nike ball in terms of it flies a lot more, and he talked about the texture and the grip and stuff like that as well. There is a difference, and it does feel very light, and I do feel that it is probably having a slight subtle impact on what teams do. So yes, you might be onto something there, because I think there's a theory also that ball is changing the way some teams set up in terms of set pieces, long shots, that kind of thing.
It just reminds me of the time, was it a World Cup a few years ago where they complained the ball was too round?
The South Africa one, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's like I'm not having it.
Well,
Garry,
the Arsenal goal yesterday, I mean, that caused all sorts of problems in the flight for the goalkeeper. It's poor goalkeeping, but there might be something in it.
Oh, I'm glad to. Yeah, okay, interesting. Everyone's on board with that. Okay,
I'm not.
Just mention something.
Greg's not.
Hey, we're mentioning all the, we're going forward, but again, last season a lot was based on Matt Sells, the defence, Murillo and Milenkovic's partnership. And that shouldn't be forgotten from yesterday. The goal we conceded was, unfortunate. It was like he rolled down his arm. Yes, it was a penalty. But, generally, I like Milenkovic because he's no nonsense. He doesn't try and be clever. He doesn't try and do things he can't do. He just does things he knows he can do very well. And, the basis of, a good start to the season is having that solid back 4 or back, whatever you're going to play 3. And I can see that being a big part of our doing well again in the Premier League with that partnership and, the opportunity when Nuno thinks he needs to switch it, when we get wing backs maybe, and we have to play, or we do play against teams with 3 at the back, then we've got the personnel to be able to do it. And that was a good sign for me yesterday.
I felt sorry for Thiago, Garry. I thought that coming up against Milenkovic first game of the season, that's not what you want. And he did the same. It was no messing. There was one 50-50 where he just completely outstrengthened him and won the ball for us, and the crowd
wiped him out.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see, and that's what Milenkovic does. He goes touch tight, wasn't he? And then you're right, he does the simple things. Well, he can do the simple things because we got someone next to him who can do incredible things, which is, it's a great combination. And it was very reassuring that when we needed them, they were just so reliable, those two again, weren't they?
Yeah. The XG, for those who care, from the game was 1.86 versus 1.5, but obviously they had a penalty. The open play XG was only 0.46 for Brentford, which shows just how totally in charge we were defensively, certainly. What do you make of Hutchinson and McAtee, Garry, coming in?
Well, I think they can only be good. They want to come to a place like Nottingham Forest. They want to be part of a European campaign. They're young, they're vibrant, they're creative. They cause problems for any defence. When we saw Hutchinson, last season for Ipswich, because I thought Ipswich did really well last season. They caused a lot of teams a lot of problems, but generally in the end, the lack of depth probably did for them. But he was a standout performer. McAtee, we know what he can do. You're not a Manchester City player if you can't play. He's quality, and they're both in the under-21s. Elliot Anderson knows about them, and I just think that depth that we've now got on the bench, I think we mentioned it earlier, is going to be absolutely pivotal in getting through all the European games, FA Cup games or whatever, Carabao Cup. I think the squad is very, very strong now, And, if we add to it, great. If we don't, I think everybody will be delighted with what we've got so far. And that gives Nuno so many great options, in every game. If he thinks it needs changing, he knows he's got real quality on that bench to come on. And teams will see that. They'll think, oh, my goodness, he's going off, but look who's coming on. And, when you've got that in your team, in your locker, it's a great place to be, believe me. And it's only good. And you've got to give everybody praise again. From you've got to give Mr. Marinakis for keeping Morgan Gibbs-White. They mentioned it in commentary yesterday. That was the best signing of the summer, maybe. And it was the owner.
Oh, he's got another call. He's a popular man today, certainly. Hang on.
Well, the conspiracists would say you got cut
silenced
off.
Him. He silenced. Oh dear. I had a question lined up. Don't worry. Watching the match day vlog, which is really good. Check it out. We'll try and do them more, but it's difficult if I'm not at the game because I'm relying on people like Greg to do all the footage. In it, Greg, your
like a dig. Carry on.
Your nephew, he got Hutchinson on the back of his shirt and he got a Europa League badge on. I was just thinking of, for kids growing up, of this generation, Hutchinson could be an England international in a few years. We've got a Europa League badge on. All these kids are going to be so excited, aren't they?
I know, they don't know how good they've got it, what we grew up with. Yeah, he was adamant as well. He knew, do you know when Milenkovic signed? He knew about Milenkovic way before I did. He played him on all the games.
FIFA, don't they? Yeah.
He was. So like Hutchinson, the same again. He's so excited about that, and fair play to him, getting him on the shirt before he's even seen him kick a ball in red. I think that's superb. So yeah, buzzing for kids like that, being able to grow up and watch this team, how they are. It's just amazing.
Gary's back. You got cut
off. Sorry,
Mr.
Popular again.
Don't worry. Just on the other sidings, we discussed Douglas Luiz at length. And I said a bit about him yesterday, how I'm just a bit worried he's absolutely got to come off if he does sign. But on Rico, Lewis, Mark, and more generally fullbacks, because it looks like Lewis might not happen. I suppose that is the one gaping hole in this squad now, isn't it? But certainly after the first international break, when the window's closed, we've got to have two more fullbacks in, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ploy with Lewis was get one in who can cover both positions, and maybe that'd still be the ploy. Lewis would have been ideal because he can also play across the midfield as well, and he technically can play anywhere. I mean, you could play him anywhere and he'd do a job, wouldn't you? I don't think he's a goer now. So it'd be interesting if we go back in for Tsimikas, who's very much left-sided, a good player, a different type of fullback as well. If we're losing a game and we need more going forward or on set plays, he's someone who can come on and be one of those ploys to get back into a game, and that's kind of the role he plays at Liverpool, I think, when he brought in. So I like him as a player, but he's not got that versatility that Lewis brings. So if we bring in Tsimikas, we probably have to look at another right-sided player as well. So yeah, while I said about Lewis being a target for giving us bench options, and I still think we need that as a bench option in terms of the squad for Europe, we absolutely need fullback coming.
Excellent. You got a little bit of background noise on your mic. I think I can get rid of it though, Mark, or you could at your end.
Yeah,
anyway.
Sorry about that. I think it's just picked it up recently. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Matchday vlog was really good, and we'll try and do more of them. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jackie. Certainly. Where was going to? Oh yeah, Paul Morley had a good stat here, which he told me in the nav yesterday when he finished 4th in the quiz. So for people who are listening and watching, between November the 23rd and March 21st, we have 22 games in 99 days. That's one every 4.5. Depending on how far we go in cups and everything. So we're going to have a lot of games, and we are going to need the squad certainly. Greg, anything else you want to say about the game yesterday, or before we depart from that, or any other thoughts?
No, it was just brilliant.
Was it just nice to beat Brentford?
Yeah, and do you know what I think? I think my issue was Thomas Frank more than Brentford. Because now he's gone, I don't seem to dislike him as much. Maybe it's because other London clubs have clearly taken over their positions. But good luck to him. There you go.
Mark, any other points from the game before we move? Who was your man of the match out of curiosity? Because I gave it to Anderson.
Oh, Anderson, yeah. No, I think what will be interesting now is, I think that was a weak midfield that came to the City Ground to play up against us, and it did mean that Sangare could stroll through the game almost, and Anderson could control the game. Let's see what happens at Palace, because you've got Anderson up against Wharton, Gibbs White up against Eza, if Eza is in that team, which is a big if, but if he is, then you've effectively got a head-to-head there between Anderson and Wharton for a place in the England squad, and Eza and Gibbs White, because they play very similar roles, don't they? So I'm going to be interested to see how much control and impact Gibbs White and Anderson can have there, and how Sangare copes with Sarr running at him in those spaces, because he didn't have Damsgaard to contend with for Brentford, and Palace definitely have got more effective weapons with a lot of pace that could cause Sangare issues. So I think we learn a lot more about that midfield three and the role they're going to have on our season when we come out of that Palace game.
What are you wanting to see, Gary, in the next week or two? I think we discussed it there around fullbacks. What else do you think we need now?
Well, obviously, they're the two positions we're a little bit light in, but I just want to see what we did from the first whistle. The way we want to dominate a game, we didn't sit back. It was a totally different performance to we've had before, when we encourage oppositions on and then go on the break. We actually were taking the game to Brentford. I think that surprised them a little bit, maybe that was the case yesterday. And when you've got that in your armoury, when you can do both, and I think with the signings we've got and the people coming in, we can do both. We can sit back because we can break quickly. We've got players with pace, but we can also now, with the players we've got in and they're coming in, we can take the game to the opposition as well. And Chris Wood's got to be up there for me as well as man of the match, because he not many goals in pre-season. As a striker, you love to go into the season with 2 or 3 goals in pre-season maybe, but he went out there as if it was just the continuity from last season. No problem at all. Sometimes his hold-up play was really good, bringing people into the game, but his 2 finishes were absolutely sublime. Both totally different goals. But and then the one that was the Gibbs White, the one that just went over the bar, the acrobatic one. We've got so many possibilities of goal scorers, and when the team are playing against you, that's horrible. You can say block 1 out or block 2, but when you've got 3 or 4, you're going to think, oh, where's he going to come from this time? And we have players like that. We have Nico Williams who can get down that left. We've got Aina who can go down the other side, and oppositions know that. And it's very difficult to defend against that. I just thought that the whole round performance was, it was a team man of the match, because, everybody did their job. Everybody was consistent throughout the game. It was disappointing to concede, but, I thought we could win it, 4 or 5 in the end. But, give Palace, give whoever we played.
Brentford.
They're a London team. Yeah, they just give them credit, because they could have capitulated totally. It could have been very embarrassing. So you've got to give the manager a little bit of credit at half time to stem things and calm things down. But yeah, I'm just really excited now with who I sat in the stand. The boy from Rennes. I mean, he could be anything. He really could. Because, like I said earlier, you watch him. I watch what he does, and he's very quick when he's got the ball at his feet, and he can go both ways. He can go inside, he can go outside. He'll try and curl one. He'll try and get his foot through one with a low back lift, which is the one that went across the goalkeeper into the far post, off the far post. He just seems to got every finish in his locker. And when you're playing against somebody like that, it's so difficult to defend against.
Last question before we go. I think I put the thumbnail of this episode is Forest mean business or something like that. We did our predictions last week, so we'll probably revise them in a couple of weeks. But as we sit here now, Mark, with performance yesterday, the players coming in, do we have to recalibrate our expectations or too soon?
No, it's a bit soon. I mean, this is the toughest league in the world, so we've just played a team that we think is going to be fighting relegation, so we can't judge too much on that. But it really depends how quickly Nuno can integrate the new signings. There's no question the quality that they bring. I mean, I'm really excited to see what Hutchinson can bring as an alternative to Ndoye as well. I can see us starting games with Ndoye being a more direct goal threat than Hutchinson, but bringing Hutchinson on for the last 25 when the fullback is tired, and he's going to be a nightmare running at you because his trickery is top quality. And we've, with him one side and Callum on the other and Chris Wood in the middle, we've got people who can supply crosses to Chris Wood, and we know how well he can finish. So I think our ability to win matches late in the game with those players we've now got on the bench, McAtee, very highly technical player who can play the 10, and means we can rest Gibbs White in Europe and feel like we've still got a player who can pick the lock. It's so important. So if these players settle in quickly and Nuno can find the balance to get them minutes and to integrate them in our system, then we can be top 10, no question. At the moment, I've got us 14th. I'm being cautious because of the impact of European football, but let's give it a couple of months, see where we are in November, and I think we've got the makings of a top 10 side again, no question.
Yeah, I said 10th. I mean, I may be bumping up to 8th at the moment if these signings come in, certainly. I still think when you look at lots of teams have got very good squads, so I don't think it's a slam dunk like, oh, we're going to do better than last season, because last season we overachieved, but I'm very excited. Greg, you said 8th. I never sound very excited, do I? Someone might clip that up and say you always sound boring. Greg, you said 8th, and I think you were dragged down by family members. So what would you say right now?
I think we've got to be getting into Europe every year now. That's what the owner wants. Clearly, we've got to be one of those teams that somehow, either through winning a cup or winning a European competition or getting in the top 6. So I think we're going to do something, and we'll strengthen again, and we won't make the mistakes we made last January when it looks like we need a couple of players. We didn't go out and get them. We will do. I think, who did I put top scorer?
Igor Jesus.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I'd possibly change. I'm not sure whether he'll get the game time as such, really, unless something drastic happens with injuries. But no, top 6, we'll say.
I just realised, Matt, I actually said 12th, not 14th. So I was actually more optimistic than I thought.
See, well, you can bump that up to 8th then now, can't you?
Quite easily, yeah. And I said Wood 15. I think I predicted the most goals for Chris Wood, so I'm probably in a better position having watched Sunday's game now. So yeah, it's funny. Chris Wood, I didn't expect to be able to hit those heights, but maybe we need to take that back, because I think if he can stay in the team, it's just a question of minutes. He will take his opportunities, and he's going to get service with these players that have come in.
Oh yeah. I mean, if he stays in the team, then he's going to score goals. I mean, Gary, how much would you want to be in Chris Wood's position right now in terms of having, I don't know, the wingers? Do you still think they need to put the ball in the box a bit earlier? That was one criticism of Dan Andor yesterday. I thought maybe could have really taken his fullback on, but overall, whoever plays in this team as the number 9 should get chances this season, shouldn't they?
Yeah, look, it's the most difficult league in the world to acclimatise to. When you come from Europe, because it's a different way of football. The demands on your body because of the number of games you play are totally different, I think. And I think we can, because of the strength of the squad at the moment, and the recruitment has been so good, there's no reason why we can't go, top 10 comfortably. But the problem is 2 teams that maybe are going to be a little bit better this season, who should be better, Manchester United and Tottenham. They've got a new manager. They won the first game 3-0. Manchester United, you saw yesterday, were a different proposition. Probably should have got something out of the game. So I think they're going to both be stronger. Brighton might struggle a little bit. Bournemouth. So it's all about the strength of recruitment, and I think we've nailed it pretty well so far. Probably more so than a lot of teams in the Premier League, apart from Liverpool, of course. And, they looked a bit dubious at the back against Bournemouth. So it's not a foregone conclusion. You feel Man City are going to be a lot better than they were last season. Chelsea struggled first game of the season. Crystal Palace will be a little bit aggrieved about the goal disallowed. But with the squad we've got, I still think, recruitment is paramount. It's been very good, and there's no reason why we can't, get that continuity going.
Excellent. Right, we'll have to leave it there. Greg and Mark are going to get tasered by their bosses if they go past 2 o'clock or even hit 2 o'clock. So if you've enjoyed this and you're one of the 850 people still with us, or you're watching it later, do us a favour, hit like, do subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon, or just a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. It would be great. We are back tomorrow with Dan Story and James Belshaw Wednesday should be with Tom Williams, who's a journalist who covers French and English football. He's often on lots of podcasts and stuff on the Athletic, so that should be good. And then we'll move forwards into proper Palace build-up. Garry Birtles, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure.
Certainly was. Mark Sutherns, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Gary.
Greg Mitchell, thank you very much.
Thank you. Shout out to the Trent end, by the way. That display, I didn't have a lot to do with it at all, but it was amazing. So shout out to the Trent end as ever.
Yeah, very good. Great stuff as ever from Forza Garibaldi. Right, have a good day, everyone. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.